Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drank and Champagne, joined as always by Mr. Champagne, Andrew Champagne. Andrew, how's your week been, man?
What's your name again?
Josh?
It's Josh, right?
What'd I do?
Rest in peace, Bill Walton. That's how we'll start.
Mm.
Things are okay here. You may notice my background's a little bit different. There's no Saratoga in the background. There's no pink sheet. There's no Lord Miles picture off to the side. I had him, 59-1 in the Wood Memorial last year, just in case anybody forgot. I am somewhat remote for the next couple of days. I am helping my fiance house sit as her family is in Mexico for a wedding. There are dogs that are involved here, and they need to be taken care of. One of them is a perfect gentleman. The other is a complete psychopath, and you may hear one or both of them as we record this show, just as a heads up.
All right.
I got you speechless. I start with Bill Walton. I end with angry dogs, and that's all it takes.
mean, I thought I was expecting a longer soliloquy on Bill Walton. So I was just looking
Don't
off.
worry, there will be plenty of Bill Walton references sprinkled in throughout this show.
You want to know what left me speechless? Was the
that?
fact that you were so short. I just expected you to just go on, and so I'm getting my PPs up and getting all this stuff ready, and then all of a sudden it went silent, and I was like, oh, I thought he was going to go for about 3 minutes there, but
now, what I will say before we go further is, if you want, go on my Twitter account and scroll down a couple of days. You will see videos of people telling Bill Walton stories. They're all good. Every one of them is good. Bill Walton, thank you for your life.
One of the videos I saw that was pretty funny was Frank Caliendo sitting with Bill Walton and them going back and forth as
and
Bill
him
Walton
doing
and Bill
Bill
Walton. Yeah.
better than Bill Walton, as poor Dave Pash looks on wondering what in the world he's doing there.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but yeah, I know. Yeah, he was big in the announcing space. Obviously, a great player, and yeah, he was just a weird dude. He was just I don't know. There's a ton of fun stories about him floating around there.
So he was a weird dude. But the one video I will recommend more than any other is the one that features Mike Breen, the ESPN NBA play-by-play guy, who tells a story about something Bill Walton did for Mike Breen's father. He might have been a little bit strange, but Bill Walton got it and got what life meant more than just about anybody. So that's definitely worth your time if you have not seen that. And you know what? If you have seen that, see it again.
Nice. What else you've been up to this week?
Well, a lot of cases, it's just me resting up for the first ever Belmont at Saratoga coming up next week. Got the first pink sheet email this past week. We're up to 6 handicappers in the pink sheet, which is, fresh meat for me as I go on my big redemption story after the nonsense that happened to me last year, 3 days into the meet. A lot of fun that's going to be had there. 4 days of high quality racing in upstate New York. Really excited to be back there. Really looking forward to that. And hey, if my presence makes a couple of people angry at my mere existence, then that's a win for me.
Yeah, I think I'll be pretty light this week with horse racing stuff. Just kind of prepping for the summer with obviously Belmont next week. But I did take a look at 2 of the Churchill Down cards. Friday's card, I took a look at with the Wolf of Oaklawn himself, Chase Sessoms. I went ahead and we did a podcast that's out now on the notorious OTB, talking about the late pick 5 at Churchill on Friday. That looked pretty interesting. And then Saturday, they're going to back it up with a all stakes pick 5 that we're going to take a look at here. And then obviously next week with Belmont, the Belmont week coming up, we'll be streaming on Thursday. We'll be joined by Naira's own, Naira Bet's own,
I don't know. I
Anthony
feel like
DeSantis.
Naira can claim him at this point.
Yeah, yeah, but I think if you ask him, he's Naira Bets through and through. I mean, the man hustles. The man is hustling promos. He's hustling videos. He's got stats everywhere. He's all over the Naira Bets.
And in the midst of all of this, he's teaching his father how to use Twitter and not block everybody.
I mean, he's failing at that because he's still
But
blocking
he's
everybody. But
trying, Josh. He's putting forth the honest effort to try to teach Blaine DeSantis the wonders of social media. And I
I
use that
mean,
very loosely.
in fairness, I think he's also teaching a college class, so he's got that going
Do
for him
we have
too.
evidence that this man sleeps? Like, does he own a bed?
I mean, I don't know, but I think Sarah might sleep enough for both of them.
That's entirely possible given what we have heard.
So, but yeah, let's why don't we take a look at this pick five though. I thought this is a fun little sequence. Um Obviously I think we'll get through the first couple races pretty quick, unfortunately, but then I think it gets a little spicy. Andrew, I don't want to ruin the surprise of your ticket, but I do see three letters that we rarely ever see on a ticket here, at least that we give out, and that's the all.
Not here,
So
though. Not in the
no, definitely not here, but later on. So I
Oh,
think I think
yes.
this gets pretty interesting. But the Aristides here, we're going to be going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Andrew, there are only two horses I think that can win this race, and in order for this other horse to win, something needs to go very wrong with the other horse. Either just break slow or something and that's obviously the number 3 Skelly. Um, I mean, might be the best sprinter we have going at 6 furlongs. I mean, I think he's been campaigned very well. I think Steve Asmussen is gearing him up for a big summer. They sent him over to Saudi Arabia for the Riyadh Sprint, ran second in that race, and other than that, I mean, what he's rolled off something like 9 or 10 wins in that span with 1 second. So I mean, he's going about as good as he can. Obviously, he's come back, won the Count Fleet, then another listed stakes at Oak Lawn, coming up to another listed stakes here, I'm sure, before gearing up for a couple of races at Saratoga. So, um, yeah, I had a hard time getting around Skelly. I mean, the only other horse I think that might have a shot at winning this, and this is a horse we've talked about before, is Tejano Twist, and that's because he's back to his preferred distance, I believe, of 6 furlongs. But he tends to like to run second to Skelly, and unless Skelly, like I said, just completely doesn't show up, which I don't see any signs that he's not going to. I think Skelly's just a lone A and a hard stone cold single.
Josh, I see E8 in those past performances. Do me a favor.
Hmm.
Put those three cherries there. Throw it down, big fella. Throw it down.
There we go. You got the 3 cherries.
Thank you. It's an E8. It's a lone A. There not being the three cherries just seems wrong. I have nothing to add to what Josh said. To me, this is probably the premier sprinter in the country. This is a horse that, when he's right, runs everything else off their feet. He's been right for a very long time. He's been very carefully campaigned, not that just this year, but last year as well, when he went 6 for 7 with a second. I mean, this is a horse that Steve Asmussen has campaigned very smartly. If you look at the work tab, this is a horse that doesn't need a lot in the way of conditioning in order to get ready. 1 or 2 workouts before a race, that's all he needs. This is a horse that I imagine Steve Asmussen has gotten to know very, very well. I'm not getting cute. If Skelly doesn't win, I lose, Josh loses, and I imagine a lot of other tickets go up in smoke too.
Yeah, and like I said, I think if you're trying to go total game theory and want to have some kind of exposure to another horse, I mean, the only other one I would use would be Tejano Twist. But yeah, I have a hard time looking past Skelly in here.
Yep, single and move on.
Yeah, which we will to the Shawnee. We got a grade 3 here. We're gonna be going a mile and 16th on the dirt. Um, Andrew, I had a single in this race, and then I thought maybe I was being a little too cute. You know, I, you know, you have a single in here as well. In the six Jagera, and that's a horse I ended up adding last minute. This was not the horse I wanted to single here, um, but I think if we get a fast track, I mean, you have to use Jagera. If you get a
Yeah.
sloppy track, I think maybe you can start making the case that maybe she just does not like the slop, and maybe you can, you can try and play against in that way a little bit more. But yeah, this one I felt like I'd be an idiot not to use. But there's another horse in here that I do like quite a bit. But I'll let you wax a little poetic here on Jagera.
I don't know if Jagera doesn't like an off track so much as she doesn't like going up against Idiomatic. And that, by the way, was Jagera's first start since late November. There's every reason to believe she needed that race. There's every reason to believe they ran in that race because they saw the field shaping up and went, wait, it's a 5 horse field. We're going to get a check regardless. Even if this horse needs a race, if this horse runs second or third, it's good for us. That obviously did not happen. Jagera definitely needed a race. I'm willing to draw a line straight through that one. And it's pretty simple. If she runs back to those races in late 2023, where she got very, very good, especially over this Churchill Downs track, I think she's going to be very, very difficult to go against. I am just not sold on some of the other horses in here that are likely to take money. Your second choice is horse number 7, Scylla. I really hope I'm saying that right. The one time Scylla went 2 turns, she flattened out. I know she is bred to go all day. I know she's by Tappet out of a very classy mare by the name of Close Hatches. But I see a horse whose 2 best efforts came going a 1 turn mile against suspect competition. I don't think she wants 2 turns. There is every chance that the blinkers coming on wakes her up a little bit, but at her price, I can't possibly bet her. The other horse that's likely to take some money is horse number 3, Wet Paint. And I get why. She's reasonably accomplished, but I don't think she gets anywhere near the kind of pace that she needs to set up for the late kick that she has. She needs to improve considerably off of those last couple of races in order to stand a chance in this particular spot. Even the mid 2023 races, I don't think are good enough in this particular spot. I saw your text on your past performances, though, for horse number 9, Hoosier Philly. And this is the horse that I was a little intrigued by underneath. I don't think Hoosier Philly is good enough to run with Jagera, but I do think there's every chance Hoosier Philly on her best day can run second at a bit of a price.
Yeah, and so I was originally going to single Hoosier Philly, and then I came to my senses at some
And then
point.
I told Josh he hated money.
But this is a horse that's 3 for 3 at Churchill Downs. I think is a horse that is better going, going a little bit longer than she has been. I mean, she did win as a real sharp price favorite going a mile at Oaklawn, but they tried her at 6 furlongs. There's a 7 furlong. I know the Charlestown Oaks that they tried her at, but I don't know. I think that she just runs much better going the 2 turns, and I think a mile and 16th at Churchill Downs seems to really be, I think, what she wants to do. So horse for course type angle here, and this is kind of a third off the layoff. I think that this is you're going to get a good effort from Hoosier Philly. Whether or not it's good enough to win, I'm not sure, but for the price, I'll take a shot. I do think that Jagera is going to be a little tough to beat in here, and I kind of agree with you with the other short price Scylla. Like, they tried going 2 turns at Keeneland, and it just did not work. And then they cut her back to 1 turn, and sure, lo and behold, she wins by 7. So I don't know why they don't just keep doing that, but they know better than me. You said it about Wet Paint. Horse needs a setup. Not going to get the setup in this race. I think that there's every chance that one of these horses gets out there on the lead and sets pretty moderate fractions. I don't know if necessarily this is going to go wire to wire or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised. If a horse like Hoosier Philly or maybe even the 9 Hidden Connection gets out there, gets on the lead, and picks up a check in a race where there's definitely I think classier horses in here.
Yeah, I get that. I am personally, I wanted to single Chikara here because I needed coverage in a couple of the other races. The last three races of this sequence, they're not easy. I thought they were pretty difficult. So my thinking is single the first two legs. Yes, they're going to be popular singles, but I want coverage later on in the sequence to where if a bomb comes in, especially in one of those legs, I've got a chance to knock out a bunch of tickets in a race where I think I need more coverage. In this one, I think it's pretty simple. If Jagera winds up running back to her late 2023 form, she wins. If she doesn't, I don't know who does. To me, single Jagera, move on. Yes, it's a cheap way to start going chalk chalk, but sometimes free squares are free squares. And if you try to overthink, it doesn't go well for you.
On the plus side, if Jagera doesn't run well, you get your favorite angle,
The toss two
the
play,
toss two play. Yeah.
well, the toss two play would have been in effect if the November 23rd race was a dud. I like the dud, the long break, and then a dud, and then I play the horse. And there's a
Mm.
couple of horses later on in this sequence, one of which in particular is a pretty big price in race number 10 that I think that angle might come into play on. That's called foreshadowing, kids.
All right, let's move on to the meat and potatoes here of the sequence here. We're going to start with race 3 here, the regret. We're going to be going a mile in the eighth on the turf. Andrew, you hit the all button here.
When John Wooden was dying, Bill Walton went to see him in the hospital. Wooden was not doing well. He was 98, 99 years old. He was very clearly in his last days. Bill Walton was very hard on himself and talked at length about how he thought he was one of John Wooden's biggest failures. Think about that for a second. All Walton has accomplished, and he's one of Wooden's biggest failures. He goes into Wooden's hospital room, goes up, holds Wooden's hand, and goes, "Coach, it's Bill Walton." Wooden had been asleep for a little while. His eyes light up. He takes all the energy he has left. He sits up, crosses his arms like so, and says, "I thought I was done with you." My favorite Bill Walton story. It's a darn good one. And I tell the Bill Walton story here because I think that's far more interesting than any analysis I could give of the regret stakes, where I don't have a clue, Josh. I have
Mm.
no idea what to make of this entire field. The only thing that intrigues me about this race is the presence of horse number 2 coming out of the Kentucky Oaks. If we can scroll down for just a second at that one here, as Josh goes through his 9,000 monitors, that's Everland, who was 41 to 1 in the Kentucky Oaks, ran fifth, comes back in what I think is a more appropriate spot. Everland can win, but so can many, many others. Scroll down one to Gavea, please, horse number 3 in the program. This is a 30 to 1 shot on the morning line. Won first time out in Europe, comes across the pond, beats winners off the boat. Then something happens last time out in the Chelsea Flower where this horse was 4 to 1, and we haven't seen the horse since. If this horse runs back to those first two races, isn't this horse a player at a big price? I have no strong conviction on any of these horses. I think it's a very evenly matched field. I think any of them can win. And because I singled in the first two legs, I have the ability to turn this pick 5 into a pick 4 by hitting the all button and hoping for a price in a race where I got to tell you, I don't have a clue. This is one of those races where the more you look at the form, the more everything starts looking like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's just one of those races that, to me, I want to hit the all button, move on, buy the race, hope for a bomb. And if we wind up getting that kind of a bomb, this pick 5 could still pay.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw this much differently than you. There were two horses I think I needed in this race. Um, we'll start with the favorite here, the 6 Buchu. And this is a horse that has not yet gone the distance of a mile and an eighth. Um, has been running at a mile and 16th, has run perfectly fine at a mile and 16th. You look at the breeding, I mean, this is a horse I think that's only going to improve with distance. Obviously, Justify, and then out of a Galileo mare. So I think adding the extra half furlong is good. I think you look at the last race, the Edgewood, where kind of disappointed at a pretty short price. That turf course was very wet. It was yielding. Obviously, if we get another yielding turf course here, maybe we readjust. But this horse has done run super well every single time on good or firm ground, especially going over a mile and 16th. So yeah, I'm really interested in Buchu in this spot. I think that this horse just makes a ton of sense as the favorite. And the only other horse I really thought I needed was the horse just drawn into its inside, the 5 poolside with Slim. And we talked about 3 cherries. Well, we got 2 cherries and maybe like 3/4 of a stem on this one. You got an E7 here. And obviously, going at Gulfstream, broke its maiden wire to wire on the synthetic, and then ran in the Florida Oaks. Ran a pretty decent race. Was on the front end, chased the pace, and just kind of got caught at the end. And then in the Appalachian, set very fast fractions and just kind of gave out. But when I look at this race, I just don't really see a ton of really, really like good speed in this race. So I thought that there's a chance that the 5 poolside with Slim could maybe pull a little bit of an upset here, because I do think that they're going to be able to set slight more moderate fractions than she's had the last 2 times out. And then once again, you look at the breeding. You got Churchill on top, and you got a Paulet on the bottom, and both of these, I mean, they want to go over a mile. These are horses that want to run forever. So I think adding the additional distance, horse that's shown some speed, you get Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard, who rides really, really well in Kentucky. And I don't know. I think this is just a horse with a lot of upside here. First off the bench for George Arnold.
So my thing with Buchu is this: if she runs back to the race she ran 2 starts ago at Keeneland, she's a major player. But if you like her in this race, don't you also have to like the horses that ran second and third in the Edgewood and beat her? I know Buchu may not have cared for the yielding going, but she's run on good going twice with some cut in the ground. She's been 2 for 2, and both of those were graded stakes races. I'm not saying Buchu can't win. I'm saying a lot of horses in here can win.
Anything else in here?
Nope. I'm pretty sure the all button covers my thoughts on this race. I'm hoping for, in order, either a price or, failing that, a couple of scratches that drive down the cost of the ticket.
All right. Race 10, the Blame. We're going to be going a mile and an eighth on the main track here. And you got Highland Falls at 5-2. Tap It Trice, good Lord, at 3-1. Dreamlike at 4-1. War Campaign 9-2. Cagliostro at 6-1. And then you got double digits on everybody else. Yeah, I ended up on 2 horses here. And I don't know. Maybe I've been hanging out with Mark a little too much, but I feel like I'm ending up on short prices a lot in this sequence. But I thought Highland Falls looked pretty tough in this spot. Is a horse that won a couple of nice allowance races at Churchill at Fairgrounds, and then immediately jumped into graded stakes company. And when the Santa Anita handicap, and finished 4th there. Then went to the Oaklawn handicap and finished a solid 2nd to Skippy Longstockings. And when I just kind of look at the rest of the horses in this race, I mean, this is a horse that's been just facing much tougher than whatever's in this race. So I I think that last effort was pretty good in the Oaklawn handicap. I think if he can run back to that, I think he's got a really solid shot to win here.
Highland Falls is a legitimate favorite. I've got no issue with Highland Falls. There's one other horse in here that I needed to use, and I saw you have an A by Dreamlike. Dreamlike, one of my all time favorite horses. Why? Because he ran third in last year's Wood Memorial,
Hmm.
won, of course, by Lord Miles at odds of 59 to 1. Keep scrolling, though, all the way down to horse number 11 in the program. That's Trademark. Josh, if this race is run 6 months ago, Trademark is your favorite. Trademark on November 24th of last year won the Grade 2 Clark right here at Churchill Downs. He's 4 for 7 with a second here at Churchill. They brought him down to Gulfstream for the Pegasus World Cup, and he clearly did not care for the Gulfstream Park surface. I have no problem drawing a line through that race. They brought him back in the Ali Sheba on Kentucky Derby Day, and he did not like the slop one bit. He winds up wide throughout. He was never all that comfortable. Josh, I'm going with the toss two play here because I think you can throw out both of those last two races. The Ali Sheba was his first race since the Pegasus, did not like the slop. I think he's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot tighter for this particular race, second off the bench. Reunited with Martin Garcia, who rode him very well a couple of times last year. He rode him to a second place finish in the Lucas Classic. And we're getting 12 to 1 on a horse that on his best day could absolutely win this. I've got no problem giving Trademark one more shot in here. And if Trademark winds up just not being the horse he was last year, then that's probably it for him at this level of racing. But I'm using 211 in this spot. Those are the only two that I want. You mentioned Tapit Trice. I think it's puzzling that he shows up in this spot. And I have to ask why. Because if you look at the way this horse has been working, he's been working fine, very steadily, couple of 5 furlong drills down in Florida and then over to Churchill Downs. Given the way he ran in the Belmont last year, why isn't he at Saratoga for the Brooklyn, which will almost certainly carry significantly more money? Those are the questions you ask about short price horses. I don't have those questions about Highland Falls, your likely favorite. I do have those questions about Tapit Trice. He's a play against for me here.
Yeah, I mean, right. This is one that you would think wants to run all day, wants to run the mile and a half. Maybe eventually ends up getting on that marathon circuit because it's this is just the type of horse that ends up on those running those kinds of races. But
Honestly, his third place finish in the Travers wasn't that bad either. Did not start all that well. Had a Z pattern there, Josh, which I know you really like. So why isn't he going long next week?
I mean,
It's
he
a
is
fair
going
question.
long. Well, oh, he's not going long there. I mean, I just think that this is just the Pletcher. Hey, we're gonna prep. This is the prep. I don't think this is obviously the intended spot. But
Right.
you
It's
would
not
think. But you would think
yeah.
he could have prepped him 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. To get
Exactly.
ready.
I mean, why wasn't he running in the Pimlico Special? This is a horse that would have been perfect for that sort of a race as a start, and that makes me think something's gone wrong along the way with Tapit Trice. Now, there's every chance Tapit Trice makes me look foolish. That would not be the first time that's happened. It's not going to be the last, and it's not going to deter me from taking stances in the future. But those are the horses you're supposed to beat at a fairly short price. Now, you've got Dreamlike on the screen right now, and you got to sell me on this one because this is a horse that is still eligible for a first level allowance. I was at Saratoga on August 13th of last year. I believe you were too, when this one was odds on in a first level allowance, flopped, absolutely flopped. They saw fit to run this horse in the Pennsylvania Derby, winds up running fine over a very sloppy track that honestly makes everything seem like an outlier from that day. Didn't run a jump in the Breeders' Cup Classic, comes back at Keeneland, runs second behind Cagliostro, who Josh also shows up in this spot. Sell me on this horse.
Well, I just think that this is the Todd Pletcher move. This is the allowance prep into a stakes race, and the horse ran well enough in that allowance race. Had a relatively slow pace going, 24 and 1, 48 and 1 in that race. And, was up pretty close onto the pace, which, this horse is kind of floated between, kind of being a deep closer and, being a presser type. And I just think that maybe they figured out that this horse does need to be a little bit, more forward. And yeah, I think if Irad can keep this horse sitting, third or fourth, off by like 2 lengths and not off by 5 lengths, like in that allowance race at Saratoga, I think that this horse is got a huge shot in here. I there's just not a lot of horses in here that I think are just, I guess, scare me. I mean, like I get, hey, Dream, like, doesn't exactly have the greatest of resume, but I mean, you look through a lot of these other horses, and outside of Highland Falls, I mean, I don't really know if there's anybody else in here um, I'm really, I guess worried about. I did look at Cagliostro here, because obviously uh, won that race last time out at Keeneland, the allowance race that we're talking about. But I just think that he got away with murder last time. I mean, the slow pace, and basically was given the lead at first call, and or at second call, and I mean, just kind of coasted, I think, home, and held on by a neck. So I'm kind of just putting a line through that, thinking that's a prep. I kind of look through here. You got a little bit of speed in here with Frosted Departure, Uncle Jake, Classic Causeway, Cagliostro, 5-star General. So I do think that a presser type or closer is going to be what you're going to want here. And so just run style. The fact that I think Dreamlike's going to finally get a bit of a pace setup. Um, yeah, it's just got me looking at thinking that this horse is going to take a step forward in this spot.
Not sure I agree, but I understand where you're coming from. And if you're looking for a little bit of value, I do think he's going to drift up from that 4-to-1 morning line price. Feels like they made that because it's Pletcher and Irad, and they think that's going to move some money. But his resume certainly doesn't stack up all that well to those others in the field that you've mentioned. Good luck with him. Personally, this is a horse that I'm going to go against more often than not. By the way, you mentioned him. What the heck is Classic Causeway doing in here?
I mean, you want to talk about a badly campaigned horse?
Well, I don't know about badly campaigned. I do think aggressively campaigned would probably be the right way to do it. I mean, we were talking about horses that should probably be going significantly longer. This is a horse that should be going significantly longer because he came back and his seasonal debut at Oakland and the Temperance Hill was actually pretty good. He was second beating the neck that day. Then they send him to Churchill, winds up going a mile and a half there, doesn't show a whole heck of a lot of interest. They tried him in a turf race that came off the turf. Horse showed no interest there, never made the lead. It bizarrely campaigned, and this is clearly a horse that's got some talent. Remember, he went wire to wire in the Belmont Derby a couple of years ago. It's just one of those cases where you see a couple horses in the field and you're going, why are they here when they could be running in spots X, Y, and Z? Bizarre to me.
Yep. Anything else on this race?
Nothing really on this race though. Going into the last though, I thought this was another spread race, and it was all I could do to get down to 5 deep there.
Yeah, and we have two horses in common. I'm only using two horses, um, and we'll start with the 8 twirling point here. And I mean, maybe this is just me. I see a Jonathan Thomas horse on the turf at Churchill Downs. I bet the Jonathan Thomas horse at Churchill Downs on the turf. You see Frankie Dettori gets aboard here. Obviously, he's had a great start to this meet, and yeah, I think that this is a horse that if you look at the the turf races, I think that this horse is shown just a steady improvement in those turf races. Obviously, last seen at Turfway Park in the Rushaway, and Frankie Dettori rode the horse there, and this is just maybe just not a synthetic horse. I mean, I know it broke his maiden on the synthetic, has got 2 seconds, but I'm really looking at that turf race in February at Santa Anita. I think this is a very versatile type horse. Obviously, both of his wins have been on the lead, but I don't think that those races where he's finished second and third, like in the Eddie Logan or that optional claimer at Turfway, where he sat just off the pace, were all that bad. So I just think that Frankie's got to keep this horse close up on the lead, and I think that he's got a ton of ability, and he's got a big shot here. There's not really any need the lead type horse, or just like a horse that just like is absolutely a speedball, is absolutely going to go to the front. So there is a chance that Twirling Point does just get the lead. And I think his versatility is going to be really helpful in this spot. So I like the 8 Twirling Point as my top pick. But another horse I'm going to use is the 3 Cameo Performance. This is a horse that ran second in his debut in Ireland, shipped over here to Keeneland and broke his maiden immediately, going a mile and 16th on the turf there. And, you know, that last race it was the second place finisher came out to win next time out. So he beat something in that race. The Brisnet figure doesn't look all that great, but this is another one that he was up close in that last race, and gets Tyler Gaffalione aboard, who I think is just a different rider in Kentucky. He knows how to ride on the turf in Kentucky. And you get Brendan Walsh, who is really good with these horses after they break their maiden. Obviously, he's being a little pretty aggressive here, going from the maiden race to a listed stakes race, but those Keeneland maiden races can be very salty. So I'm looking through this race. You don't have a ton of horses that have a lot of wins in here, and when I look at Cameo Performance, obviously Oscar Performance on top. This is another one that I think is going to relish the distance. So, going to go an extra half furlong compared to last time. So, I really think Cameo Performance is a horse on the improve here, and one of the lighter raced horses in this race. And yeah, I definitely think that he can take a step forward here.
No truck stops in here. No pushovers at all whatsoever. It's a good field in the Audubon, named after, of course, the famous birder, founder of the Audubon Society. Just saying. Cameo Performance is a horse that I used. I liked him a fair bit in that race at Keeneland. He was 12-1 on the morning line, I believe. I thought I found something. He won at less than even money. I did not find anything, or rather, I should say, I was not alone in finding something. I think Cameo Performance is a very nice horse. And you mentioned those races can be a little bit salty. That day's second place finisher, Greenlight, was 6 lengths clear of the third place finisher and came right back to win. That's a legitimate racehorse that Cameo Performance wound up beating. The other horse that you used, that's your top pick, Twirling Point, I'm using that one defensively. I do think Twirling Point can win on his best day, and I think the presence of Frankie Dettori is an absolute plus. The one hesitation that I have with this horse, and why he would be a B for me, he's 2 for 2 on Lasix, 0 for 4 without Lasix, doesn't get Lasix in this spot. It's not like he's run terribly without Lasix in the past, but his best races, I think, have come with Lasix in his system. The horse that I always gravitate to in these races, who has run his eyeballs out at massive prices in each of the last 2 starts, is horse number 9, Laganos. Laganos is a horse that I believe I gave out on here 2 starts ago before the Transylvania at Keeneland. Ran gigantic that day, third beaten just a half length. I liked him again in the American turf. He runs third beaten 2 lengths and is flying late. I think he gets a solid pace to sit behind. I think he makes one run. And as I mentioned, I feel like he was on the Derby trail running in the wrong races for the right reasons. He won an off the turf race at Churchill Downs on November 25th last year. They had to see what they had. They realized, oh, We have a turf horse. Let's run him on the grass. And if you had him to fill out either of those tries in the Transylvanian American turf, you cashed pretty good. 5 to 1 on the morning line here, though. Still, I think a very nice horse that is going to wind up getting the pace to run at. He would probably wind up being my reluctant top pick if I had to make one. The other two that I'm using, I'll use number 5, Formidable Man. He was the only one from that early pace setup in the American turf that was still hanging around at the end. It does flatter him a little bit that Legend of Time wound up winning the Pennine Ridge in just heartbreaking fashion for yours truly last weekend at Aqueduct. I think Formidable Man could be on the lead, could be stalking the pace. Luis Saez winds up riding back for Michael McCarthy. Good signs there. I'll also throw in horse number 6, Camaro Z, who's shown some versatility down at the fairgrounds. Fairgrounds turf always baffles me a little bit, but this is a horse that hasn't run a bad one in his last 4 starts. I see Jose Ortiz signing on for a high percentage barn. I see that price, and I can't let that horse beat me. 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9 for me. I'm going 5 deep in hopes of finishing out this pick 5 ticket.
I think Camaro Z is so not to meme. I really do think Camaro Z is cross entered on Friday as well. So
Now
just
there's
something.
history here because Josh spoke a scratch into existence on Preakness Day. If you missed that, go back and find that live stream. It's hilarious. It's entirely possible. I don't know. I didn't see a cross enter when I saw the PPs. If he is cross entered, hey, my pick 5 comes down in price. If he runs though, I've got to use him.
Yeah, and I got your pick 5 ticket here on the screen. That's 3 with 6 with all with 2 11 with 3 5 6 8 9.
Yep.
And with no scratches, that's a $50 ticket for 50 cents. And then I'm a little bit more economical.
Which
I'm
is a reversal of form for us because usually you're the one throwing money in the air and I'm the one that's trying to keep the cost of the ticket down.
Yeah, I'm singling the 3 in the first leg, just like you, and then I'm 6 8 with 5 6 with 2 6 with 3 8. So that's an $8 ticket. I'll probably toss $30 at the sequence, and I will press a couple of horses, and you know kind of play around with that a little bit. Maybe I'll toss in an extra horse. Um, Trademark is a horse I always like betting, and is a horse that really likes Churchill Downs. I really liked him in the race last out. Got a wet track and just didn't run. So maybe that's one that you kind of toss that one, or maybe you just don't toss that one, Andrew. Maybe you toss two.
Hey, I'm just saying the toss 2 angle works and works very well in the spots that I've seen it. You'll wind up with a horse whose form gets darkened a little bit, and all of a sudden, a horse that based on merit should be 4 to 1 or 5 to 1 winds up being double or triple the price. And that's the pursuit of value that we talk about when we handicap.
Now, I guess my only question for you is when you do Chase's pod and you talk about the toss two, does he hit the dirty little pig boy
Um,
sound for it?
Saves my dirty little pig boy sound for the Steve Asmussen work pattern angle. So
Gotcha.
you see the
Okay.
bullet 2 back and then the maintenance move. That's the bigger little pig boy angle for me.
Okay. Anything else, Andrew, you want to talk about? What you got going on this week?
Well, this week it's a lot of dog sitting up here in Northern California. So, making sure that our 4 legged friends are fed and given every opportunity to relieve themselves when they need it. Yeah, it's a lot of that. And next week is going to be pretty busy with Saratoga starting up on Thursday for 4 days. I've got a radio interview on Monday of next week already with my old hometown radio station, WKNY in Kingston, New York. This is this is where we wind up having some equity. And it's where I've been fortunate to be able to do a lot of really cool stuff. And if you're out there and you're listening and you recognize my name, chances are it's from there. So hop on and let's see if we can make some money this summer.
Nice. So make sure you check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Andrew is at Andrew Champagne. Like, subscribe,
All the
do all
buttons.
that stuff, all the buttons. Let's make some money, guys. Have a good weekend.